On June 24, 2003, KELOLAND experienced what became known as Tornado Tuesday.
A storm system over the east central and southeastern portion of South Dakota produced a record-breaking 67 tornado touchdowns in one state.
And it was during the storm that a Northwest Airlines flight from Minneapolis was attempting to land in Sioux Falls. In tonight's Eye on KELOLAND, Tom Hansen looks back on what many feel was a near disaster.
Northwest Airlines 1462 was cleared to land. The pilot was in control of the plane while the co-pilot and the air traffic controller were in communication.
All the lightning is to the west of us, but I believe from the National Weather Service just called us, I don't know what they call it, a quasi-mesocyclone inbound from the southwest.
All right, copy that.
A mesocyclone is a rotating thunderstorm that can produce tornadoes. Before the approach of Flight 1462, 3 flights, including this one captured by our cameras, had already been diverted. But the pilot of 1462 wanted to land.
There's a wall cloud coming inbound from the west now, kind of like a wave, like a line of wave or something. It's kind of weird.
All right.
Northwest 462 Whiskey. Just had to report some tornadoes. Hartford, which is just south or just east of here, west of here, about 20 miles. And they said funnel clouds that are west of here coming this way.
All right, give us lower.
The wind has started to shift significantly. Wind 230 at 39er, gust 48. Wind shear on approach to runway 15, 40 knot gain at the runway. Northwest 462 Whiskey, if you need an escape vector, heading 150, and start a climb, that'll get you away from the weather.
As the plane came in, sheer winds pushed the DC-9 to the left and into a slight nosedive. Gina Timmerman and Chris Wright were 2 of the passengers.
We did bank over to our left side quite dramatically, I'd say about 90 degrees.
First I said, oh, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. And of course, your kids go through your heads. You know, all my kids were at home. And I said, we're not going to make it.
The pilot struggled to keep the plane in the air and pushed the jet's engines to full thrust. Slowly, the plane began to climb and escape the violent winds.
Northwest 462 Whiskey, I got you now. And, the winds just came up ferocious there. Winds currently 270 at 40, gusting to 50. Northwest 462 Whiskey, roger. And did you say you want to go back to Minneapolis?
We just want to go away from the ground until we're safe altitude.
The co-pilot asked to be diverted to Omaha. Moments later, the tower confirmed that the flight had tangled with a tornado.
And just to let you know, there was a tornado reported 4 miles northwest of the airport.
Copy. I think we got a nice glance of it.
Bet you they did.
Both the controller and the co-pilot were right. Listen to veteran storm spotter Jeff Petrowski, who saw the plane from the ground.
Oh my God! Oh my God! There's a plane right above the tornado. There's a plane. Oh my God! There's a plane almost got hit by the tornado. It's a jetliner. It's okay. A jetliner. There's a jet going right by the tornado. Okay. It's a jumbo jet. It goes right by the tornado. By the tornado too. Oh my God! The jetliner just flew over me. Okay, is it out of its path? Yeah, the jetliner just barely missed the tornado.
The plane would land safely in Omaha. The FAA would later hand the pilot a 45-day suspension for trying to land the plane during severe weather. With Eye on KELOLAND, I'm Tom Hansen.
That is some chilling stuff there.
And goosebumps just listening to
I did several stories on that 20 years ago. Those were my interviews, and oh my goodness. And at the time, I didn't think it was that big of a story until you actually hear the accounts from them personally, and then you hear the audio from the control tower to the pilot. Yeah, that was scary.
Hearing that audio, like you said, Virg, it just gives you chills as to, and thinking back to that night too, and what was going on.
Yeah,
people going through these, these different scenarios of the evening.
They had 100 passengers on board that night too.
How many people flew again?
Yeah.
Good question.